Akita, I really appreciate that. And Akita mentioned that, I would be asking questions. So I will be asking questions throughout the presentation. And I really appreciate you chatting in the chat box for me. I'm excited to talk to you about the important topic of managing your mind, especially when, where we are today in the world with the pandemic and the lockdown. This is a really, time of uncertainty and unprecedented events in our life. And so it's really important to be able to manage our thoughts. As we consider the topic of our mind, I think it's important to recognize that a lot has been written and shared about the mind. And what I'm sharing today is from my learnings from Brooke Castillo, Dr. Maxie Maltzby, Byron Katie, Brene Brown, and all of the authors and researchers that have studied thoughts and feelings. These all come down to one common theme, and that is we need to manage our mind to get the results that we want. And I think we all can wrap our mind around that. Through the next few slides, I'm going to discuss what this means and some simple steps that we can take to manage our minds when we are overwhelmed or feeling anxious, facing uncertainty, or any other situation that causes unwanted feelings. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I thought before we delve in any further, I wanted to take a moment to introduce myself. I've been married to my husband for 28 years, and we have 3 incredible boys that I get to call my sons. The reason it's important for you to meet my family is because I wouldn't be here if it weren't for them. I've been married longer than I was single, so you can see this part of my life is a significant piece of my existence. I've spent my entire adult life thinking and believing I was not a good mom, not a good wife, not a good friend, not a good leader. I was stuck in my thoughts of I'm not good enough. As with my marriage, my career has been a significant part of my life as well. I've had 30 years of incredible opportunities to work for Fortune 50 companies, nonprofits, and higher education, as Ankita said. I've traveled, I've put in long hours, I've been away from my family a lot. I thought and believed this is what was needed for me to be successful. The problem was, no matter what title I had or how much money I made, I still didn't think I made it. I did not believe that I belonged in the room. 6 years ago, I couldn't live with myself or what my mind was telling me about me, and wanted to end the suffering and the horrible feelings of not being enough. Thank God, and an amazing group of therapists and doctors, I'm here. Through this journey, I've learned one of the most important lessons we are not taught as children, that we can think our own thoughts and feel our own feelings, and we are not responsible, nor can we control others' thoughts or feelings. Through this story, it is likely no surprise that my passion is to help others see that they are in charge of their thoughts and they can choose to think anything they want and get the results they want for their life. This is what we're going to focus on. Okay, so first let's take a moment and do a quick refresher on the parts of the brain to understand what drives our thoughts and behaviors. The amygdala is a reptile or primitive brain. It's the part of the brain that was designed to keep us safe. When I worked at the nonprofit, the teachers like to call it the lizard brain. It was a Head Start program. So we like to refer to it as the lizard brain. This is what kept us from being eaten by wild animals in primitive times. It's also responsible for the fight, flight, or freeze response, which you hear a lot when people are anxious or uncertain or overwhelmed. The prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain that helps us make good decisions. We can control our desires or actions that are irrational with this part of the brain. And we like to call that the wizard brain, if you're a preschool teacher. The hippocampus is the part of the brain that stores our memories. The 2 areas that we will focus on are the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex, as these are critical in managing our mind. Okay, so the thoughts. So before we get started, I'd like to ask a question of the group, and I'd like you just to throw some numbers in the chat window. How many thoughts do you think we have in a day? Just throw some numbers in there. How many thoughts do you have in a day? Oh, good guesses. Amita, yours is perfect, countless. Well, those are good guesses. So in actuality, we have over 60,000 thoughts in a day. That's a lot of thinking, and most of it's unconscious. From the moment we wake up, our brains are working. We brush our teeth, we get dressed, we pick out outfits before we get dressed, we decide what we're gonna have for breakfast, we make coffee. All of these things that we do on a regular basis, we don't even realize that we're thinking, that our thoughts are actually moving us or propelling us forward. Weaved into our 60,000 thoughts each day are also the thoughts and beliefs we have from others. Some of my beliefs include, oops, sorry about that, guys. Some of my beliefs include, if you eat the cookies, they will make you fat. Or if you study and work hard, you will get into a good school. I realized that these actually aren't my beliefs. They were handed down to me from my parents. I also have beliefs that I carried to adulthood from my teachers and other adults that were in my life that became part of who I thought I was. So type some responses in the chat window to answer this question. What are some of the beliefs you have that were told to you by your parents, your teachers, or other adults in your childhood? Oh, that's a good one. Boys don't cry. My brother's heard that a lot. Yeah, we don't even realize the thoughts that aren't our thoughts, but that we believe as we grow into adulthood. Thoughts are powerful. Our thoughts can propel us to new heights or can keep us stuck right where we are for our entire life. Yeah, Amita said women are very emotional. Why sleep? You are wasting your time. Yes, those are great. Your expectations in life are based on your current level of thinking. If you expect to land a dream job, or you expect that what life deals you, what life deals you is what you deserve, you'll be exactly as you think. If you don't coach yourself beyond your current level of thinking, you will never change your expectations in your life and will keep getting more of the same without growth. So I recently read a book called Play to Win by Larry Wilson and his son. Larry provides this example in the book, and I thought it was perfect for this conversation. You decide you want to grow, you pick a goal and a commitment, you question yourself, you feel doubt, fear, and confusion. You get stuck. What happens then? Most of us stop. We start thinking of other things. We become overwhelmed. Think of a time you were overwhelmed, and in the current environment that we live in, I'm sure every one of us has felt that feeling of being overwhelmed. When you feel overwhelmed, what are some of the things you do when you have that feeling of being overwhelmed? What do you do or don't do? What do you do or don't do when you're overwhelmed? Give me some thoughts on that. I have lots of things I do and I don't do. Eat. Yes. Yes. I eat ice cream. Cook. Okay, that's good. Yeah, a lot of us eat. Yeah. Some things that I do, I binge watch Netflix. It's one of my favorite things to do when I'm overwhelmed and I can block out the world. Love to have a couple of glasses of wine at night to make me feel better. I scroll through my Instagram to see what other people are doing so I don't have to think about what I'm doing. All of those things are, things that we do when we're trying to avoid really dealing with our thoughts. We decide life is too hard and we stop pursuing our goal, our dream, and our passion. When we stop growing, we buffer. And that's what we're doing when we're binge watching, when we're eating, when we're browsing. I also take naps. If life gets overwhelming, I take a nap. But when we do that, that results in our emotions and thoughts not really allowing us to feel them. And that anxiety, that frustration, that apathy, that depression. And then you start to think that those feelings are normal, that that's life. That's where I was. Actually, for most of my life, that's where I was. But fortunately, things got better. And this is where we need to start managing our minds. Okay, so let's talk about awareness. The first step of managing our mind is awareness. There's an interesting quote by Dr. Maxie Maltzby, the founder of Rational Behavior Therapy. He said, "People seldom think about what they think about. They think about how they feel. They think about what they do. But what is causing what they feel and do is what they think about, what they seldom think about." It's a pretty powerful quote if you kind of break it down into, What he's really, what he's really talking about is everything that happens to us in a day, all of our feelings, all of our actions, all of our results, it's all a result of our thinking. So if you look at this slide, it kind of summarizes a little bit about what Dr. Maltzby is talking about. So we believe and think that we are viewing the world objectively. We actually aren't. We're viewing it through our thoughts. We're making judgments based on what we've learned and believed in our past. We've deeply ingrained beliefs that we don't even realize are beliefs. We have beliefs about ourselves that we don't realize can be changed. And the negative beliefs that we can have go right under our awareness. We're not even aware that we have those negative beliefs. Much of the anxiety and worry we carry around is caused by our thoughts, our irrational thinking. We can influence and control our feelings by examining and learning new ways to think. We have to learn to think about what we think about. So I want you to take a moment. You don't have to put anything in the chat box, but I just want you to take a moment and think about, what are you thinking about right now? Answer the question to yourself. You can write it down. Might be helpful to write it down. Notice that you had to pause. You had to shift your perspective so you could see your thoughts. This is the first step to awareness and to emptying your brain. With 60,000 thoughts in a day, we have to get a closer look at our thoughts in order to get organized. Brooke Castillo would tell us we can start the process by doing a thought download. Okay, so this is what a thought download looks like. When you get stuck or are experiencing chaos in your mind, this is the time to step out of the mess and take a look at your thoughts. It's important not to judge your thoughts. They are just thoughts that you are observing and writing down. So it's really important as you're writing them down, don't judge. Don't try to change them, just write them. And remember, nobody else has to see them. They're your thoughts. Think of it as cleaning your brain, like Marie Kondo cleans out a house. Start with your thoughts, take everything out, like Marie has her client, take everything out of the nook and cranny of every part of the house, pile it all in the bed. Do the same with your thoughts. Take them all out of your mind and put them on a piece of paper without judging or questioning. You're simply cleaning your mind out. Think of it as eavesdropping on your mind. Step out of the mess and just watch your thoughts. Once you do that, once you step out of the mess, you can actually look around and start making decisions. When you're inside your brain, you are the effect of your thoughts. And it's very difficult to recognize that everything that is going on is there. It's a choice. Your brain is full of sentences, which are your thoughts. As we touched on earlier, these sentences were taught to you directly or indirectly, and you think they're the truth. The first step is to become aware of what you're thinking, and the next step is to create thoughts on purpose. I love this quote. It's a perfect delineation of why we need to manage our mind. To enjoy good health, to bring true happiness to one's family, to bring peace to all, one must first discipline and control one's own mind. He was a pretty smart man. Okay, so let's dive into a bit more about our thoughts through a story, the story of the snake. Let's imagine 3 people in a room. I hope nobody's afraid of snakes. Let's imagine 3 people in a room. Now imagine what each of these people think about snakes. Bill is from New York. He's never seen a snake. He knows nothing about them. Emma had snakes as pets. She's from the swamps of Georgia. She had snakes as pets. She has a PhD in herpetology, and she's known affectionately as the snake doc. And then there's Henry. Henry had a bad experience with a snake as a kid. He's terrified of snakes. For purposes of our story, a 5-foot bull snake slithers into the room. Just happens to be the same room that Bill, Emma, and Henry are in. What happens? Henry's out the door faster than you can say snake. Emma goes straight to the snake and picks it up. And Bill, who's curious, but is more interested in lunch, just stays where he is. What do you think caused the different responses? The obvious answer is the snake. And the snake is a metaphor for life. Whether we want it or not, life shows up. Things happen. So given that life shows up and the snake chose this room to slither into, what do you think really caused the different reactions? Put your thoughts in the chat box. What do you think really caused their different reactions? It's the same snake and they all had different reactions. Anybody have a guess? Ah, very good. Yeah, their beliefs, their mindset. Yeah. The answer is not the snake. It's each person's thoughts about the snakes based on their experiences. Absolutely. Okay, so here's some other examples of snakes. And okay, so my boss is actually on this call right now, so the first one doesn't apply. So examples are your boss, my boss drives me crazy. Your job, my job sucks. Your life, my life is hard. So when you think about those, what are some other snakes in your lives? Throw some things in the chat box. What are some other snakes you have in your life? Ah, so-called friends, yes. Yeah, maybe I'm the only one that has snakes. A big task list, yes, yes. Those are absolutely snakes that we have in our life. And the truth is that it's not the snake, it's not the task list, it's not the pandemic, it's not the friends. It's actually our thoughts about those things. I'll say it again, it's our thoughts about the person, the event, or the life that causes our feelings. Okay, so let's talk about the MSU brain. MSU is making stuff up. Making stuff up is not good or bad. We all do it. It's how the brain works. The brain is designed to quickly make stuff up that is good enough to help us survive. Where this is most prevalent and useful in day-to-day life is to help with two classes of problems. First class is what we make up about others. The second class is what we make up about ourselves. When we are confronted with an event or a problem that initially makes us feel different from positive or neutral, we need to stop. And this is where that thought download comes in. We have all those thoughts, it becomes negative, we need to stop. We need to intervene in our thinking. We need to challenge our thoughts. What we're making up about the event or the problem or about ourselves is inaccurate. Any emotion that we feel that is not positive or neutral is based in a thought that we are having about the event or circumstance. Most of the time, feelings aren't negative, wrong, or inappropriate. They're how we feel based on what we think. A key point to remember is that emotions and feelings can be described in one word: angry, frustrated, elated, joyful. If your feeling takes more than one or two words to describe, you're likely describing a thought. Dictionary.com defines the word manage as to take charge of. To manage our mind, we must take charge of our thoughts and know that we have the power to choose our thoughts. What's within our control, we can organize and manage. When it's outside of our control, we need to work on our thoughts about that. We need to manage our mind. When we get everything out of our brain, when we do the thought download like we talked about earlier, we can see that all of our thoughts are optional. We can begin to think on purpose. One simple way to manage our thoughts is to use these questions. Pick a thought from your thought download and ask the question: is the thought serving me? Do I really want the thought? Is the thought current or outdated? These questions can help us determine if the thoughts we are thinking are the thoughts we choose to think. Okay, so after you've emptied your brain, you've done your thought download without your judgment, you pick a thought that looks interesting to you. There's no one right thought. All of these thoughts are yours, and you are just cleaning your house one room at a time. So this model is actually Brooke Castillo's model, and it applies to every single situation you could have. And Brooke will tell you 100%, she'll bet you any money, this is how our brain works. So if you write down your thought and you ask yourself the following questions, and we're going to follow this slide. So these are a little bit different than the other questions, because this is actually, we work through a process with this. So the first question we ask ourselves when we look at our thought is, what are the facts? The definition of a fact is that everyone would agree on it. It could be proven in a court of law. And that's really important because our minds have a really hard time differentiating between facts and thoughts. So then you answer the question, how do I feel when I think this thought? And we're going to go through an example in a minute. We need to pay attention to our feelings. Negative feelings will be the indicators that you are thinking a negative thought. You will think the feeling is coming from the world because you're so often feeling that, especially like with this pandemic, right? We feel that this pandemic is causing all of our negative thoughts and feelings. What we realize though is that our feelings are always coming from our thinking about what's happening. So once we know that, we write down what we do when we feel that way. So you ask yourself, when I feel this way, what do I do? What actions do I take? What don't I do? What am I avoiding? What am I putting off? How do I act? What's my behavior like? And then finally, what's the result or the effect of your actions on you? It's not your actions on other people or other things. It's what's the result on you. So we're going to walk through an example. Once we see the effect of our current thinking on our lives, we can change the model to something different. So, okay, we're going to go through this together. So let's walk through a real life example. And as I ask the questions, I want you all to put your answers in the chat box. Okay, so let's say that my thought right now, the thought that I was recently thinking was, I have so much work to do between getting my job done, cleaning the house, putting dinner on the table, and keeping up on homework for my online class. So when I think that thought, what are the facts of that thought? And remember, the facts are things that can be proven in a court of law that everybody would agree with. So throw some facts in the chat box from that thought. Okay, so we have a couple responses here. Yep, I have more jobs to do. You're busy. So those are actually thoughts. You take control. So those are thoughts. So this is actually a really good. Those are good answers because we can kind of now start delineate between what a thought and a fact is. So if we think about, if I say I'm busy, my husband might say, oh, you're not busy. You should see all the work I have to do. So that couldn't be proven in a court of law. That's really my thought about what's going on. The same with I have more to do. I might say I have more to do, and my son might say, oh my gosh, you have no idea all the stuff I have to do. So those things cannot be proven in a court of law. We wouldn't all agree on it. But the things that are facts are, there's a house, there's a job, there's a table, there's an online class. Those are the facts. We can all agree that those are the facts. So when we think about this thought and we set the facts aside, how do you think I feel when I think this thought? So I'm going to read the thought again. I have so much work to do between getting my job done, cleaning the house, putting dinner on the table, and keeping up on homework for my online class. How do you think I feel when I think this thought? You have any guesses? Yeah, overwhelmed. You nailed it. So when I feel overwhelmed, what do? We talked about this earlier. So what I do when I'm overwhelmed, I take a nap, I scroll through Instagram, I read news, articles, recipes. What I'm not doing is I'm not doing my homework. I'm not cleaning the house. I'm putting off my work. So if those are all the things I'm doing or not doing, what is my result? Anybody guess what my result is? if I'm doing all the things except for my work, what do you think my result is? Yes, soup of disaster. I love it. Yeah, I have more work to do. So my thought, I have so much work to do, really is driving and creating my result. And that's the link I want all of us to get, is that when I think I have so much work to do and I feel overwhelmed, and when I feel overwhelmed, I'm doing all of the things except for what I'm saying I need to do, my result is I have more work to do. This process is the first step to see what your thoughts, to see that your thoughts create your results. The next step is to create a more intentional thought and work through the questions to see what's possible. Okay, so you'll see that the intentional model looks exactly like the original model. The questions are the same, etc. But what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to pick a different thought. And when you go to pick a different thought, it has to be a thought that you believe in. So in this, using the same example, what might it look like if I took the thought, I have so much work to do, I can't possibly get it all done, and changed it to a different thought, such as, I can believe that I have stuff to do and I'll get done what I can. So I took the original thought, I have so much work to do, I can't possibly get it all done, and I changed it to, I have stuff to do and I'll get done what I can. That's my new thought. I can believe that. And when I think about that, the facts for that thought are, there's stuff. There's still stuff. The circumstance is the same. But how do I feel when I think this new thought? I feel neutral. I'll get stuff done when I can. I'm okay. And when I feel this way, what do? I start to do one thing at a time. I can work on my homework for 30 minutes. Then I can plan dinner. Then I can choose 2 tasks to do for work. What I'm not doing is I'm not worrying or being overwhelmed about getting it all done. I'm not taking a nap. Well, I might still take a nap, but I take it after I get my work done. So I'm really able to focus because I have a thought that helps me feel differently. It helps me take different actions. It helps me get a different result. And if we go back to the original set of questions that I said, if you just remember those 3 questions and not, this model is obviously much more in-depth, but the next time you have a thought that is negative, just ask yourself the first 3 questions. Is the thought serving me? Do I really want the thought? And is the thought current or outdated? Really challenge your thought. And as I've learned from Deepak Chopra, simply with a change of mind, you can change your life. So I wanted to take a minute at the end and just share some of the resources that I've used in my presentation and my life. And these will be obviously in the presentation when Reallife shares it. If you have questions about the thought model that I shared or the work that I'm doing with it, please feel free to reach out to me. If you have resources that have helped you manage your thoughts and manage your minds, please, please, please share with me. I am I'm a never not learning person. I love to learn, and I love to learn from others. So I'm very interested in hearing how you all manage your minds too. And you can connect with me on LinkedIn or any other way. I'm out there. So I really appreciate the time today. I'm open for questions. So Ankita, if you want to start the questions, that would be great.
Sure. Thank you so much, Tracy. I want to request you all that in case you have any questions, you can start using the chat box and start asking your questions.
So Amita asked, what is the name of the model that you talked about? So it's Brooke Castillo's model, and I put that in the last slide. If you, Brooke Castillo has podcasts, she has a school, she has a website, she has all kinds of resources, and she created the model through all of the research and all of the work that she's done on herself. So it's kind of a combination of of Byron Katie, of Eckhart Tolle, of all kinds of people that she's studied. So if you just Google Brooke Castillo, you will find her and you'll find the model. You're welcome.